My name is Karen Matthews, and I am representing Weyburn Free Methodist Church. Today's reading is from Deuteronomy chapters 16 to 19, and I will be reading from the Amplified Version of the Bible. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to the Lord your God, for in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. You shall offer the Passover sacrifice to the Lord your God from the flock or the herd in the place where the Lord will choose to make his name and his presence dwell. You shall eat no leavened bread with it for 7 days. You shall eat it with unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, for you fled from the land of Egypt in haste, that all the days of your life may earnestly remember the day when you came out of Egypt. No leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day at evening be left all night until the morning. You may not offer the Passover sacrifice within any of your towns which the Lord your God gives you. But at the place which the Lord your God will choose, in which to make his name and his presence dwell, there you shall offer the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sunset, at the season that you came out of Egypt. And you shall roast or boil and eat it in the place which the Lord your God will choose. And in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. For 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work on it. You shall count 7 weeks, begin to number the 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the standing grain. Then you shall keep the Feast of Weeks to the Lord your God with the tribute of a free will offering from your hand, which you shall give to the Lord your God, as the Lord your God blesses you. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your son, you and your daughter, your manservant and maidservant, and the Levite who is within your towns, the stranger or temporary resident, the fatherless, and the widow who are among you at the place in which the Lord your God chooses to make his name and his presence dwell. And you shall earnestly remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and you shall be watchful and obey these statutes. You shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles or Booths for 7 days after you have gathered in from your threshing floor and wine vat. You shall rejoice in your feast, you, your son and daughter, your manservant and maidservant, the Levite, the transient and the stranger, the fatherless and the widow who are within your towns. For 7 days you shall keep a solemn feast to the Lord your God in the place where the Lord chooses, because the Lord your God will bless you in all your produce and in all the works of your hands, so that you will be altogether joyful. 3 times a year shall all your males appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, at the Feast of Weeks, and at the Feast of Tabernacles or Booths. They shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessings of the Lord your God, which he has given you. You shall appoint judges and officers in all towns which the Lord your God gives you according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not misinterpret or misapply judgment. You shall not be partial or take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Follow what is altogether just, uncompromisingly righteous, that you may live and inherit the land which your God gives you. You shall not plant for yourselves any kind of tree dedicated to the goddess Asherah, beside the altar of the Lord your God, which you shall make. Neither shall you set up an adulterous stone or image, which the Lord your God hates. You shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God an ox or sheep with a blemish or any defect whatsoever, for that is an abomination to the Lord your God. If there is found among you within any of your towns which the Lord your God gives you a man or woman who does what is wicked in the sight of the Lord your God by transgressing his covenant, who has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun or moon, or any of the host of the heavens which I have forbidden. And it is told, and you shall hear of it, then inquire diligently. And if it is certainly true that such an abomination has been committed in Israel, then you shall bring forth to your town's gates that man or woman who has done that wicked thing, and you shall stone that man or woman to death. On the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, he who is worthy of death shall be put to death. He shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hands of the witnesses shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hands of all the people. So you shall purge the evil from among you. If there arises a matter too hard for you in judgment between one kind of bloodshed and another, between one legality and another, between one kind of assault and another, matters of controversy within your towns, then arise and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses. And you shall come to the Levitical priests and to the judge who is in office in those days, and you shall consult them, and they shall make clear to you the decision. And you shall do according to the decision which they declare to you from that place which the Lord chooses, and you shall be watchful to do according to all that they tell you. According to the decision of the law which they shall teach you, and the judgment which they shall announce to you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the verdict they give you, either to the right hand or the left. The man who does presumptuously and will not listen to the priest who stands to minister there before the Lord your God, or to the judge, that man shall die. So you shall purge the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and reverently fear and not act presumptuously again. When you come to the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you possess it and live there, and then say, we will set a king over us like all the nations that are about us. You shall surely set as king over you him whom the Lord your God will choose. One from among you, your brethren, shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner who is not your brother over you. But he shall not multiply horses to himself or cause the people to return to Egypt in order to multiply horses, since the Lord said to you, you shall never return that way. And he shall not multiply wives to himself, that his mind and heart turn not away, neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And when he sits on his royal throne, he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book out of what is before the Levitical priests. And he shall keep it with him, and he shall read it in all the days of his life, that he may learn reverently to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of his law and these statutes and doing them, that his mind and heart may not be lifted up above his brethren, and that he may not turn aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue, he and his sons, in his kingdom in Israel. The Levitical priests and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings made by fire to the Lord and his rightful dues. They shall have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he promised them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from those who offer to sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep. They shall give to the priest the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the stomach. The first fruits of your grain, of your new wine, and of your oil, and the first or best of the fleece of your sheep you shall give the priest. For the Lord your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand to minister in the name and presence of the Lord, him and his sons forever. And if a Levite comes from any of your towns out of all Israel, where he is a temporary resident, he may come whenever he desires to the sanctuary, the place the Lord will choose. Then he may minister in the name and presence of the Lord his God, like all his brethren, the Levites, who stand to minister there before the Lord. They shall have equal portions to eat, besides what may come out of the sale of his patrimony. When you come into the land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of these nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, or who uses divination, or is a soothsayer, or an ogre, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord, and it is because of these abominable practices that the Lord your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless and absolutely true to the Lord your God. For these nations whom you shall dispossess listen to soothsayers and diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet from the midst of your brethren, like me, Moses. To him you shall listen. This is what you desired and asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, "Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, or see this great fire any more, lest I die." And the Lord said to me, "They have well said all that they have spoken. I will raise up for them a prophet from among their brethren like you, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And whoever will not hearken to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die. And if you say in your minds and hearts, how shall we know which words the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or prove true, that is a word which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. When the Lord your God has cut off the nations whose land the Lord your God gives you, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for yourselves in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess. You shall prepare the road and divide into 3 parts the territory of your land, which the Lord your God gives you to possess, so that any manslayer can flee to them. And this is the case of the slayer who shall flee there in order that he may live. Whoever kills his neighbor unintentionally, for whom he had no enmity in time past, as when a man goes into the wood with his neighbor to hew wood, and his hand strikes with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips off the handle and lights on his neighbor and kills him, he may flee to one of these cities and live. Lest the avenger of the blood pursue the slayer while his mind and heart are hot with anger and overtake him because the way is long, and slay him even though the slayer was not worthy of death, since he had not been at enmity with him previously. Therefore I command you, you shall set apart 3 refuge cities. And if the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he has sworn to your fathers to do, and gives you all the land which he promised to your fathers to give, if you keep all these commandments to do them, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God and to walk always in his ways, then you shall add 3 other cities to these 3. Lest innocent blood be shed in your land, which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, and so blood guilt be upon you. But if any man hates his neighbor and lies in wait for him and attacks him and wounds him mortally so that he dies, and the assailant flees into one of these cities, then the elders of his own city shall send for him and fetch him from there and give him over to the avenger of blood so that he may die. Your eyes shall not pity him, but you shall clear Israel of the guilt of innocent blood, that it may go well with you. You shall not remove your neighbor's landmark in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess, which the men of old, the first dividers of the land, set. 1 witness shall not prevail against a man for any crime or any wrong in connection with any sin he commits. Only on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses shall a charge be established. If a false witness rises up against any man to accuse him of wrongdoing, then both parties to the controversy shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had intended to do to his brother. So you shall put away the evil from among you. And those who remain shall hear and reverently fear, and shall henceforth commit no such evil among you. Your eyes shall not pity. It shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. The word of the Lord.